Hi everybody, thanks for joining us for Northern Ag TV. Well, this week Montana rancher Bryan Mussard was in Washington D.C. where he was a panelist on a roundtable for the Make America Healthy Again initiative. Bryan, of course, is a past president of the Montana Stock Growers and owns Reminisce Angus in Dillon, and he talked about how he first got connected with Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
I got introduced to Bobby Kennedy last summer by a mutual friend, and I sent him a text at 9:30 one night, and he asked me to be his ranch advisor, and so I've been sending him information and working with him about everything that we're talking about in this room today from the ranch side, from rural America. And I sent him, and Leland and Charles can attest to this, I sent him so many text messages and emails on saturated fat that when I met him for the first time last September, I just introduced myself as saturated fat to him. And he knew who it was. And so anyway, today I hope to, my goal has been for the last several years to bring saturated fat to the national conversation. It needs to change. Everything that you've heard today in the MAHA movement, I feel it is one of the primary causes of all our problems, and we can really solve that without spending a penny.
During the panel, Bryan spoke about his efforts to address the misconceptions around saturated fats.
Our own beef checkoff, and I'm not sure about the dairy, but the beef checkoff, we're not allowed to say saturated fat is good for you because the USDA deems saturated fat as unhealthy. And until we get that changed, we're not going to get our dietary guidelines changed. We're not going to get good food in school. There's going to be a fight against this forever because there's no money to be made in healthy people. There's a lot more money to be made in sick people. And so that's why I'm here today, to bring saturated fat to the national conversation. And if we do not do that and change that, none of this matters. We're just playing chess on the Titanic.
Well, switching gears, I had an interesting conversation recently with Joe Kipp, who's on the Montana Livestock Loss Board. Joe ranches in Glacier County and is concerned about eagle depredation. He said after a closer look, they found some calves were not lost to natural causes.
I had one calf. He was laying flat on the ground. His nose was cold, but he was alive. So I brought him down, threw him in the hot box. My wife contacted me when I was out in the field and said, this calf's got no tongue. Then I had to euthanize it. No way it could possibly eat. The tongue had been bitten off. I had USDA Wildlife Service come out, and they determined the one I euthanized was indeed an eagle depredation.
Joe said they now examine dead calves for signs of eagle depredation, and he's encouraging other producers to be aware. You know, sheep producers lose a lot of lambs to eagles, and so Joe said it may be worth considering adding eagles to the list of predators covered by the Livestock Loss Board.
I believe we've been having them for years. I just wasn't looking deep enough. I want to get the word out to every producer in Montana. You know, there is a program, Coulter, with the FSA Livestock Indemnity Program that will pay for eagle predations because they're federally protected wildlife. I'm interested if we got enough people out there that are claiming to have eagle predation. I'd like to try to run it through the state legislation and get eagles included on Montana Livestock Loss Board.
And the demand for Hereford genetics continues to increase. Kevin Murnan, the rep for the American Hereford Association for our region, put together the numbers for this year's sales season. 1,700 bulls sold with an average close to 10,500. Just shy of 1,000 commercial heifers averaged 2,373. The interesting thing to me is not that the average on bulls was up 19% from last year. It's that going back to 2020, the average has climbed $4,000 or 62%. And that's with over 600 more bulls sold, a 55% increase in head count in 5 years. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back for the markets after this.
From the beginning, we've worked closely with farmers. BNSF's ties to the agricultural community go back 175 years. Together, we've innovated to make the U.S. agriculture supply chain one of the most efficient and productive in the world. Our strong relationship powers BNSF still today and helps us move the nation like no one else can. At BNSF, we move the nation for you.
Talking with someone that you know is stressed out, those are difficult things to approach, but if you're good friends with those people, reach out and say, I'm here to talk to you. We can find somewhere to get some assistance. It's hard to get involved, but at the same time, you want to just say, hey, there is help available.
For more tips in dealing with stress in agriculture or for free counseling for egg producers, visit beyondtheweather.com.
Well, the sell-off continued in the cattle futures Thursday. You know, we hit all-time record highs early this week, but we've been backing off that since then. Feeder cattle have lost more than $10 in just 2 days. Now, the market was overbought and there was definitely a profit-taking opportunity, so we'll see where things go from here. Typically, these liquidation phases can last about 3 days, but this one's been pretty steep already. Cash-fed cattle trade, we're still trying to wait and see if we're going to come down off of record highs. So far this week, we've been $1 to $3 better. Live deals ranging $218 to $229, dressed from $355 to $360. Just about 1,000 head of calves sold on the Northern Livestock Video timed online sale for mid to late October delivery. You can see the prices there. That's north of $2,100 per head for the steers and nearly $1,900 for the heifers. An unreal way-up market at Lemon Livestock, where some of those big cows getting up to $3,000 a head, several bulls over $4,000. Heifer pairs selling up to $4,700, the rest from $3,550 to $4,250. And the winter wheat market has found a modest correction higher the last 2 sessions, and spring wheat just a slight rise on Thursday. As expected, higher yield projections coming from Kansas on the hard red winter wheat tour, with average yields at 53 bushels an acre. That's about 10 above last year. I'm surprised that the higher yields haven't forced the futures lower, but there have been some quality issues noted, with a fair amount of wheat streak mosaic virus reported. Well, thanks so much for joining us for today's report. I'm Coulter Brown, Northern Ag Network.